Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. So a couple of weeks back, Nico Hulkenberg was drafted in to replace Sergio Perez at Racing Point after the Mexican tested positive for COVID-19, and Hulkenberg was therefore asked to take his seat for the British and 70th Anniversary Grand Prix. However, ahead of this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix, it was confirmed that Perez is back and would be racing this weekend. As a result, Hulkenberg obviously therefore found himself without a seat once again. But during his brief stint as a reserve driver, did the German do enough to impress other teams and give himself a shot at a full-time seat in 2021? Well, let's start with that British Grand Prix. When you consider that he wasn't even in the country before Thursday and found himself in that car less than 24 hours later, I think he did a very good job. After his first practice session, he was only around half a second off teammate Lance Stroll and managed to make the top 10. Okay, that car is pretty good. But again, that was his first session of any kind in F1 since December last year. Not bad at all. And when it came to qualifying, the German was less than a tenth off Stroll. Well, in Q2 anyway, and was very close to getting into Q3. However, although he had clearly improved as the weekend went on and he was looking forward to the race, his bad luck, if you like, once again struck and Hulkenberg was not able to take the start after the team found an issue with his car, and that was that. He came back strong last time out at the 70th Anniversary Grand Prix though and put in a great lap to qualify third, nearly 4 tenths ahead of his teammate and lined up with just a 2 Mercedes in front of him. A hell of an effort. And when it came to the race, he looked to have the measure of Stroll again and was set to finish ahead of him. But after complaining of vibrations, Racing Point chose to pit Hulkenberg and that dropped him down to 7th where he finished the race. Still though, 6 points, a third place start and running better than a teammate who has more experience behind the wheel of the RP20. I really do think he did an excellent job and took full advantage of the brief opportunity that fell his way. But what now for Nico Hulkenberg? Firstly, I think he could well end up being the go-to driver for a number of teams if any other driver tests positive and has to go into isolation for a race or two. We hope they don't, of course. But if they do, Nico Hulkenberg could be a lot of teams' go-to. Not only does he have a vast amount of F1 experience, he has now driven a 2020 car in anger and so probably has become quite an attractive prospect as a stand-in. An attractive prospect is a phrase you're going to hear a lot in this video, I fear. Plus, as I've already said, he did a good job. So he might get another opportunity before the end of the season, and if he does, it's another chance to show everybody just what he's got. That aside though, it's surely all about 2021 and whether or not he can land himself a seat for next season. The big question is though, where does he go? I suppose the only place to start with this type of thing is by having a look at where there are some vacant seats. So Ferrari have tied down Charles Leclerc and snapped up Carlos Sainz, so that's them out of the equation. McLaren have gone with Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, with Renault bringing in Fernando Alonso to partner Esteban Ocon. And Williams have already confirmed that George Russell and Nicholas Latifi are both staying put. Mercedes have, at time of recording anyway, only confirmed Bottas for next year, and so technically they do have a seat available. But let's be real about this. Lewis Hamilton, assuming he stays in Formula 1, which I think he will, but nothing confirmed yet, will be taking that seat at Mercedes. There's no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. AlphaTauri are not really a destination either, as they will likely stick with a combination of Gasly, Fiat, maybe Albon if he doesn't improve, I don't know, or Red Bull lose patience, or they might go and bring in another Red Bull youngster. Red Bull themselves do officially have a seat open, as Alex Albon has not yet been confirmed for next season. But I honestly can't see them bringing in Hulkenberg. He'd be a good, quick, consistent and experienced driver to put alongside Max. So I suppose you never really know, but I'd be very surprised if that happened. And although Perez is signed up for next year and Stroll is on a long-term deal, there's a lot of talk about Aston Martin possibly bringing in Sebastian Vettel and keeping Stroll and letting Perez go. That's if we believe the rumour mill, although it should be said at this point that Perez stated in the Spanish Grand Prix press conference that he has been told the team wants to keep him and added that rumours will soon disappear. So on that front, I guess we'll see. But all of that leaves 2 seats open at Haas and 2 seats open at Alfa Romeo, as neither of those teams have confirmed any driver for next year. And as of right now, they look like the most likely options for Hulkenberg. The German has confirmed that he's held talks with a number of teams, and both Alfa and Haas have been put forward as likely candidates for his signature. It has also been rumoured for a couple of weeks now that Kimi Raikkonen is set to retire at the end of this season. That said, I'll believe it when I see it. And Nico Hulkenberg almost fills that void that Kimi leaves perfectly. The Finn is hugely experienced. He's been around on and off since 2001, and that will have undoubtedly benefited that team in some way over the last season or so. Therefore, bringing in Hulkenberg would make complete and total sense. And when you consider that there is a lot of talk about one of Ferrari's F2 juniors possibly getting the call-up, Alfa will need someone with really good F1 knowledge to counter any rookies' inexperience. That said as well, I don't think we'll see many drivers promoted from F2 this year, basically because teams haven't really had as much time to assess how their juniors are performing as they would usually have had by this time the season reaches August. So I suppose promoting a young driver for 2021 might be seen as even more of a gamble this year than usual. But that's neither here nor there really. As for Haas, they were heavily linked with Hulkenberg last year, and Gunther Steiner said the team were close to signing him, but felt at the time that as the car was not performing how they wanted it to last season, a change of lineup could be detrimental to its development, and so chose to stick with Grosjean. And I don't know how true this next bit is, but there were also reports at the time claiming that his wages could have been a sticking point and one of the reasons why they turned him down. So after a year, sort of, out of the sport, those wages might suddenly have come down a little bit, and that might make him more of an attractive option for Steiner. Although it must be said that Steiner was quick to dismiss talk of salaries being an issue when asked last year, so that could just have been the rumour mill pushing itself into overdrive, as is often the case when it comes to silly season. I don't know if you've noticed. So it's pretty simple then. If Hulkenberg is to return to Formula 1 full-time next year, he's got a great shot and may well even have the pick of either Haas or Alfa Romeo. There you go then, all done, nice and easy. Well, not quite, because here's the thing. Whilst it may look like that on paper, there are a couple of other factors at play here. Ferrari have got first refusal on that second seat at Alfa, the one that Giovinazzi currently occupies, and so if Hulkenberg fancies a move there, he is totally reliant on Raikkonen calling it a day. And although that is absolutely a possibility, only Kimi knows whether or not he will be sticking around for 2021, and no announcement has been made as of yet. I will say super quickly at this point, by the way, that if that car does not improve drastically over the next few races, I think Kimi probably will walk away. I cannot imagine he's enjoying battling towards the back end of the grid. The other factor is Racing Point, or Aston Martin as they will be known from next year. As touched on earlier, it looks like it's between Sebastian Vettel and Sergio Perez when it comes to who will fill that seat with the team next season. But if Vettel takes that seat, that would see the Mexican without a drive for 2021. The reason that relates to the Hulkenberg situation is because suddenly there are two very good, very quick and very experienced drivers available, and that could well leave the likes of Haas and Alfa with a very difficult call to make. Yes, absolutely, Nico Hulkenberg did a seriously good job all things considered when filling in for Perez. But this is Sergio Perez we are talking about, a driver many, including me, feel is very underrated and one of the best in that midfield. If he suddenly were to become available, surely any team with a seat open is going to at least start up a dialogue with him and his representatives. He also brings money with him, and that's something that both Haas and Alfa could probably do with. In fact, if I look at it purely from their perspective, I'd argue that Perez is the more attractive option than Hulkenberg. Sure, Nico is a very good driver, but so is Perez, arguably better. I'll let you guys fight that one out. And he also brings in the cash. It's the perfect mix for teams towards the back of the pack. Look, it's almost impossible to second guess what any team will do with their driver lineup, but I've always found teams like Williams, Alfa and Haas the hardest to predict, even though the latter have been sticking with their drivers for a while now. And unfortunately, as much as we would all love the decision to be made based on talent and talent alone, every single team on the grid is going to take some kind of financial hit this year for obvious reasons. And so for some teams, it could well come down to which driver brings in the most cash. So again, if Perez does lose out a Racing Point, expect to see quite a battle for his signature. And by the way, I do want to quickly just add in at this point, I'm not saying that Perez would get that seat just because he's got the money. Yes, of course he brings cash, but he is so much more than just a pay driver. The point I'm making is that if a team have got a choice between a very good driver and a very good driver, but one brings cash, they're going to take the one that brings the money. But anyway, I don't know how to explain that. You probably already knew that. Let's move on. As I've already said, Perez, he's talented, consistent, quick, experienced, and brings that sponsorship. But equally, if another driver comes along and offers substantially more, even though he's one hell of a talent, Checo could also find himself left out in the cold. That's how F1 works. And yeah, if we lost Perez, I'd really struggle with that. I know F1's a brutal sport at times, but Perez is more than good enough and 100% deserves to be on the grid. But anyway, bloody hell, I guess my point is, in a roundabout way, that Perez would probably be top of the list for a team like Haas or Alfa if he's available. I could be wrong. I mean, let's face it, I'm usually way off when it comes to predicting anything, but that's how it feels to me. To summarise before I just go off on a completely random waffle, which a lot of this is, but anyway, I honestly do believe that Nico Hulkenberg has done himself no harm whatsoever with how he performed across the last 2 race weekends, and he's definitely put himself right in the shop window, and I'd imagine to the forefront of the minds of some team bosses. But where will he be in 2021? Predictions time. As I've already said, I think it is probably between Haas and Alfa Romeo, and if Checo does keep his seat at Racing Point, I would say that Alfa is the more likely destination for the Hulk. They are going to need his experience if Kimi decides to retire, and I feel like they will go all out to land him. However, if Perez does lose his seat, I think Hulkenberg will end up at the team the Mexican doesn't sign with. So if Checo goes to Haas, Hulkenberg will sign for Alfa, and therefore, obviously, if Perez moves to Alfa, Hulkenberg will sign with Haas. But based on how things are right now, I'm going to say that Nico Hulkenberg will be driving for Alfa Romeo next season in place of Kimi Räikkönen. I know I've been saying a lot over the last 3 years that this is probably Kimi's last season and he keeps going, but for some reason I actually really do believe the rumours this season. I get the feeling he's had enough. And as I said earlier in the video, Hulkenberg plugs that gap perfectly. Who their teammates will be is a whole other thing and definitely a conversation for another day, but they are just a few of my random ramblings, thoughts and opinions. But what do you guys think? How do you feel Hulkenberg has done over the last fortnight? And do you think he will be on the grid full-time in 2021? And if you do, where will he be? You can, as ever, let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comment section. That is it for this video then, but I will be back later this weekend with some more content, including some live reaction to the Spanish Grand Prix on Sunday. In the meantime though, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will catch you again in the next one. Bye bye.